2026 is officially the year of the Soul Reaper. For over a decade, Bleach fans lived with a bittersweet ending. The manga finale was a sprint to the finish line, rushed, chaotic, and leaving 1,000 questions unanswered. But we are living in the timeline where Tite Kubo gets a second chance. Cour 4 isn't just an ending, it's a redemption arc for the entire franchise. Today, we're breaking down why 1,000-Year Blood War Cour 4 is going to be the absolute peak of anime in 2026, and why the Kubo Cut is about to change everything you thought you knew about the series.
Let's address the elephant in the room. The original manga ending was controversial. We saw it in Cour 2 with the expanded Senjumaru Bankai. A moment that was barely a few panels in the manga became one of the best animated sequences of the decade. In Cour 4, this is going to be the standard, not the exception. Kubo has explicitly stated he's adding content that he physically couldn't draw back then due to health and deadlines. We're talking about fleshed out backstories for the Soul King, the original sin of the Soul Society, and most importantly, the actual mechanics of the final fight. If you've been following my videos, like the one where I explained why Zangetsu was never real, you know how deep this lore goes. Cour 4 is where those theories finally become canon.
One of the biggest complaints about the final arc was how some of the Stern Ritter and the Zero Division were handled. They'd show up, look cool, and get offed in 2 chapters. Cour 4 is rumored to be giving characters like Iryu Ishida a much larger role. In the manga, Iryu's antithesis is one of the most broken powers in anime history, but we barely got to see it in action. In 2026, we're expecting a full-scale tactical battle that proves why he's Yhwach's successor. This is the Domain Talk specialty, analyzing how these broken powers actually work when the budget is unlimited. Expect 20-minute episodes that feel like feature films just for these mid-tier fights.
We have to talk about the animation. Studio Pierrot has moved Bleach to a prestige schedule, meaning they aren't churning this out weekly like the old days. Every frame of Cour 4 is being treated like a movie. We're gonna see the ink wash style return for the most pivotal Bankai reveals. Imagine the final clash between Ichigo's true Bankai and Yhwach's the Almighty. In the manga, it was over in a flash. In the anime, we're expecting a reality-shattering sequence that utilizes every trick in the book. 3D environments, hand-drawn traditional effects, and a color palette that will make your eyes bleed. This is the visual peak of 2026.
We need to pause and talk about the god tier problem. By Cour 4, the power scaling in Bleach isn't just high, it's fundamentally broken. We're moving away from who can swing a sword harder to conceptual warfare. Yhwach's the Almighty allows him to see and transform every possible future. How do you even animate that? In the manga, this felt a bit like hacks versus hacks, but the anime has the chance to show us the visual weight of these powers. I'm expecting Cour 4 to explain the limitations of the antithesis and the Almighty in a way that makes sense for the viewers who love the technical side of the series. We aren't just talking about bigger explosions here. Cour 4 is taking the powers we've known for years and pushing them to a conceptual level that's going to leave the entire community debating how these fights even work.
But let's step back from the lore for a second. Why does Bleach still feel so relevant in 2026? It's the cool factor. There is a specific Bleach aesthetic that shows like Demon Slayer or MHA just don't have. It's the urban fantasy drip, the high-fashion character designs, and the iconic soundtrack of the anime. When number 1 or Treachery hits in Cour 4, it's going to be a massive moment for the old heads who have been here since the Soul Society arc in 2004. But for the new gen, the fans who started with Chainsaw Man or Hell's Paradise, Cour 4 is going to be a revelation. It's the blueprint. We're going to see Bleach dominating TikTok edits, fashion collabs, and Twitter trends for the entire year. This isn't just a seasonal release, it's a cultural victory lap for Tite Kubo. It's the big 3 reminding everyone why they earned that title in the first place.
Before we wrap, I have a theory about the final clash. In the manga, Ichigo's true Bankai was broken almost immediately. It was one of the biggest "wait, that's it?" moments in shonen history. My prediction, Cour 4 is going to give us at least 2 full episodes of Ichigo actually using that Bankai before the Almighty takes effect. Kubo has hinted at a hidden ability for Zangetsu that was never fully explained. If we get a 10-minute sequence of Ichigo finally showing the true fusion of his Hollow, Quincy, and Soul Reaper powers, it will be the single most watched moment in anime history. That is the level of hype we're dealing with here.
So, I'm putting it to you. Is the hype for Cour 4 justified, or are we setting ourselves up for disappointment? Which Bankai reveal are you betting your life on seeing in 4K? I'll be down in the comments debating the lore with you guys, so let's hear those theories. And look, if you're as obsessed with the power scaling as I am, you've probably noticed that the Gote 13 is starting to look a little weak compared to these literal gods. I did a full deep dive into why the entire Bankai system might be failing right here. Does Bankai even matter anymore? You need to watch that next to understand why the end of Bleach changes everything. Don't forget to Bankai that subscribe button. I'm out!